Hello, 8th grade. This lesson will be lesson 7.3, pages 209 to 214 in your math book. We are going to be working with equations using the distributive property. So if you'd like to pause the video and get your math book, we're going to be starting out on page 212, the guided practice page. So go ahead and pause and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, today we are going to be working from lesson 7.3, equations with the distributive property. So the standard we're working in is standard EE7. I can solve linear equations using the distributive property. So we are going to get started. Okay, so I'm going to try something a little different today. We're all learning as we go with this online learning. So I'm going to use the document camera today more than on screen so that we can draw and write a little faster than we can on the screen. Okay, so here's a problem to solve. And remember, the goal is to get the variable by itself using inverse operations. Now, since I'm not on screen, these notes will not be available on Word when I send them out onto Google Classroom. So you may want to take some notes down in your notebook to help you remember some of these things if necessary. Okay, we have x minus 9 equals 8 times 2x plus 3 minus, I want to add a minus 18 here. I believe number 5 has a minus 18. Yes. All right, so my first goal is to use the distributive property before I can even solve. So I'm going to need to multiply this 8 by the 2x, and I'm going to need to multiply the 8 by the 3 before I can even solve this. So let's do that first. So on the left side, I'm still going to have x minus 9. Now it's a good idea to do this step by step until you get comfortable with manipulating equations. 8 times 2x is 16x. 8 times 3 is 24. And then we have this minus 18 outside of the parentheses. So the minus 18 outside of the parentheses is not multiplied by the 8. The only thing multiplied by the 8 is the stuff inside the parentheses. So now we can start looking for things that are alike. So we have these two constants, and we have a constant here, and that's it. So let's still write x minus 9 equals 16x. So now what's 24 minus 18? Positive 6, yes. Okay, now we have to get our negative 9 over to this side over there. So I'm going to use inverse operations. If I'm subtracting a 9, I'm going to add a 9. And I'm going to also have to add the 9 to the other side, because what you do to one side of the equals, you need to do to the other side so it stays balanced. And I'm going to end up with x plus 0, because negative 9 and positive 9 is 0, equals, I still have my 16x, and now I have a 6 plus a 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. Now my next goal is to get the 16x over to that side so that the like terms can be together. So I'm going to drop the 0, and I'm going to have x equaling 16x plus 15. And now I have to use inverse operations to move the 16 to the other side. So I'm going to minus 16x to both sides of the equals. I'll put the equals in there. Move this up a little bit so you can see that. And my notebook here, default. So now we have 1, we'll put a 1 in front of there, 1x minus 16x should give us negative 15x equals, well, the 16 positive and the 16 negative is just going to be 0x, and we still have our 15. I'm going to drop the 0x. And now my last step, this means multiply when I have a coefficient in front of the variable. So the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide by, correct, negative 15 to both sides. Why did I pick negative 15? Because that's a negative here. So if I do that, these will cross off and I'll be left with just x, or 1x, equals 15 divided by negative 15 is negative 1. A positive divided by a negative will give you a negative answer. So the answer to number 5 on page 212 is negative 1. If you need to pause the video or rewatch part of it, go right ahead and do that. Get that filled in on your page, and we will go on to the next problem. Okay, this is number 10 on page 212. This one has a little fraction in it. That doesn't matter. Don't let that scare you away. So our first step before we can solve is to use the distributive property to multiply the 1/2 times the 16 and the 1/2 times the negative x. But now notice we also have to do that on this side. We have to use the distributive property, negative 12 times x and negative 12 times 7. So we have to do it on both sides of the equals, and sometimes that'll be the case. How do you know when to use the distributive property? You will have a number in front of a parentheses of numbers. That's how you know you're using the distributive property. So we have 1/2 times 16. So 1/2 times 16 over 1 minus 1/2 times x equals negative 12 times x plus negative 12 times 7. So far, so good. So this is going to give me 16 on top, 2 on the bottom, minus, this is going to give me 1/2 x equals negative 12x plus negative 12 times 7. What is negative 12 times 7? Negative 84. If you don't know that, you can do 2 times 7 is 14, carry the 1, 84. That's my times. Okay, I'm going to move up a little bit here. Now, what is 16 divided by 2? 8 minus 1/2 x. And again, I'm going to say one step at a time is the best way to approach this when you have a lot going on. Negative 12x plus negative 84. Now I have to get like terms together. So I have an 8 and I have a negative 84. They're both constants. So I'm going to get the 8 over to that side. How am I going to do that? Using inverse operations. So if this is a positive 8, I'm going to minus 8. Whatever I do to one side, I need to do to the other side. Move up a little. Positive 8 and a negative 8 is going to give me 0, which is what I want because I wanted to move it to the other side. I still have my minus 1/2 x is equal to negative 12x. Now I have a negative 84 minus 8. So what is that going to be? So I have a negative 84 minus 8. That's really the same as negative 84 plus negative 8. It's like you owing me $84 and you owing your mom $8. So how much do you owe her altogether? And between me and your mom, You owe us negative $92. So we are in the negative. So now I'm going to drop my 0, and I'm going to have negative 1/2 x equals negative 12x minus 92, or plus negative 92 means the same thing. Now I have to get my x's together. This needs to end up on this side of the equation. In order to do that, I'm going to use inverse operation. So I'm going to add 12x to both sides. Now, just because we have a fraction, that's okay. If I'm going to take a 12x and subtract half from that, I'm going to end up with 11 1/2 x. And on this side, the 12s will become 0x, because I have a negative and a positive, minus 92. Now, I'm going to drop the 0x. I'm going to have 11 1/2 x equaling negative 92. My last step is I have a multiplication situation here. I want to use inverse. So I want to use dividing. First, I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. So to change to an improper fraction, it's whole number times the bottom plus the top, clap, clap. Whole number times the bottom plus the top, clap, clap. I don't know if I did that with you guys or not. I know I did it with 6th grade and 7th grade. So 11 times 2 is 22, plus 1 is 23. 23 halves x equals negative 92. Now, remember that dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. And the shortcut was then to multiply by 2 over 23 to both sides. So if I do that, my 2's cross off, my 23's cross off, and I'm left with just 1x, or x, equals, now I have a negative 92. I'm going to put it over 1 so I can see what I'm doing. So that's really negative 92 times 2 on the top and 1 times 23 on the bottom, correct? However, if I notice that 23 goes into 92 4 times, I can cancel and not have such big numbers. So I'm going to cross off my 92 and put a 4 here, because 4 times 23 is 92. If I divide 23 into itself, I get 1. So now, rather than having 92 times 2, I have negative 4 times 2 on top, and I have 1 times 1 on the bottom. A little bit easier, which now gives me the answer of negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, over 1 just means negative 8. So that is my answer to number 10. X equals negative 8. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and then in a moment, we'll start on the next problem. Okay, number 11. I've written it out here for you, so you can see all that. Sandra saves 12% of her salary for retirement. Again, we're going to underline the important parts. This year, her salary was $3,000 more than in the previous year, and she saved $4,200. What was her salary in the previous year? Step 1 is we have to make an equation. We know that in the end, she saved $4,200. Get different color here. $4,200. That is the answer to our equation eventually, right? Now, we're going to let S equal her salary from previous year. Previous means the year before. So we'll let the S equal the salary from the previous year. So we know this year's salary is S plus, what does it say? $3,000 more. I'm going to put parentheses around that. Because if I wanted to know if she's saving 12% of her salary, how do we find percents? Well, we take the 12% and we move the decimal that's imaginary after the number 2 places to the left, because we're really saying 12 divided by 100. So 0.12. So we're going to multiply the whole salary, new salary, by 0.12 or 12%. We know that that new salary is going to be $4,000, or that new savings is going to be $4,200. So now it's a matter of solving the equation. So I'm going to slide a little bit over. So again, if you notice, we have a number in front of a expression in parentheses. That means we're going to have to use the distributive property. So we're going to multiply 0.12 times S and 0.12 times 3,000 before we can solve this. So let me rewrite this. 0.12 times S plus 3,000 equals 4,200. So if I multiply 0.12 times S, I get 0.12S plus, now if I multiply 3,000 times 0.12, what do I get? I think I get 360. So if you don't know, you can always just do the math. Or some of you will probably pull out that calculator. 0003. Sometimes calculator actually takes longer than it would be to just quickly do the math. You have 2 numbers after the decimal, so you move 2 places. Oh, there you can see it. So you move the decimal 2 places. So 360 is correct, equals 4,200. Now I have to get my 360 over to the side with the other constant. So I'm going to use inverse operations to subtract 360 from both sides. My equals in there, so you know what we're doing. So I end up with 0.12S. A positive 360 and a negative 360 is going to give me plus 0 equals 4,200 minus 360 gives us what? Well, I have to do the math. 0 minus 0 is 0. Can't take a 6 from a 0. The 2 becomes a 1. 10 from 6 is 4. Can't take 1 from 3. 4 becomes a 3. 11 from 3, 8. And then 3. So 3840. Now I'm going to drop the 0. 0.12S equals 3840. Last step, I have a multiplication. So I'm going to use division. 0.12 divided by 0.12. These 0.12s will cross off, leaving me just with S equals, and then you could take your calculator and do 3840 divided by 0.12, or if you'd like to do math like me, you can do it long division wise. I have a decimal on the outside, I move 2 over. That means I need to move 2 over here. So I'm really taking 12 into $384,000. So 12 times 3 is 36. 8 from 6 is 2. Bring down my 4. 12 into 4, 24 is 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. Then I'd have to bring down all the rest of the zeros, or I can just fill them in up here. So the answer, S, is $32,000 was her salary in the previous year. As we go back up to our question, what was her salary in the previous year? Her salary was $32,000. If you need to pause the video or rewatch that section and get that filled in on your page, go ahead. I'll be right back with you. Okay, I have brought up my screen for you, and I have filled in the answers over here that we filled in under the doc camera. And now I would like to go to page 213. So I'll give you a moment to turn to there, and I'll bring that up on my screen. Okay, 213. This will be also part of your homework, which I'll get to in a minute. But I'd like to do question number 13, A through D. So let's take a look at it. This one I'll do on the screen here. So let's get a little space here. Martina is currently 14 years older. And again, I want to underline things if I can. 14 years older than her cousin Joey. I'd rather use red. Let's get rid of that and use red. 14 years older than her cousin Joey. In 5 years, she will be 3 times as old as Joey. Use this information to answer the following questions. If you let X represent Joey's current age, what expression can you use to represent Martina's current age? So over here on the right, let X equal Joey's, this is a little confusing, so I'm going to do this one with you. Current age, how old he is right now. So how are we going to do Martina's age? How would we represent that using algebra? Well, if we go back up to here, it says Martina is currently 14 years older. So currently means now, 14 years older than Joey. So if Joey is X, how much older is Martina? Yeah, 14. So X plus 14, and that represents, I'm going to put current in here so we know it means current age. She's X plus 14. So is that the answer? What expression can you use to represent it? Yes, we can fill that in. X plus 14. B, based on your answer to part A, which we just got, what expression represents Joey's age in 5 years? So let's line that. Joey's age in 5 years. What expression represents Martina's age in 5 years? Okay, we got to think through that a little bit. Come back over to the right here. Well, in 5 years, if Joey is currently currently X years old, how much will he be in 5 years? He will be 5 years older. So X plus 5, right? So that's going to be Joey's age in 5 years. Okay. And then we need to know Martina's age in 5 years. Martina's age in 5 years equals, well, what is her age currently? Go up here, X plus 14, right? Bring that down a little bit so you can see me better. Not that you want to, but Martina's age in 5 years then is going to be X plus, she's 14 years older than Joey. In 5 more years, she'll be 14 plus 5 more years older, or 19 years older, right? So that we can fill that in. Joey's age. Joey will be X plus 5. And Martina will be X plus 19. Stretch that out. Letter C. What equation can you write based on the information given? So let's go back up here. Use this information to answer the questions. What equation can you write based on the information? Well, we can set them equal to each other. So we have, in 5 years, Martina, or she, will be 3 times as old as Joey. So we know that Martina will be 3 times as old as Joey, right? Equals X plus 19. So let's see, what is that? So this is Joey's age, and this is Martina's in 5 years, correct? Okay, and the 3, that up here, is coming from the fact that Martina will be 3 times the age of Joey in the 5 years. So this is the 5-year equation, and she's 3 times as old as that, and this represents Martina's age in 5 years. So that's our equation, so let's put that over here. 3 times x plus 5 equals x plus 19. Okay. What is Joey's current age? What is Martina's current age? This is asking us to, you guessed it, solve for x. But be careful on the question. It's asking for both ages. We went way up to the top. X equals Joey's current age. So, and Martina's current age is that. So let's go down and solve for x. We have 3x plus 5 equals x plus 19. We need to use the distributive property before we can solve. So we do that. We end up with 3x plus 3 times 5 is 15 equals x plus 19. Now we want to get our 15 over to the side with the 19 using inverse operations. So we end up with 3x, oops, let's just do this, minus 15 to both sides, minus 15, and seems really far apart here, so let's fix that. Okay, it's a little better. Line that up better. Okay, I'm going to underline that. So we now have, I'm just going to bring the whole thing down to the next row so we can continue to see the whole thing. So we have 3x plus 0, because negative and positive 15 equals 0. X plus, what's 19 minus 15? 4. Drop the zeros. We have 3x equals x plus 4. Now I need to get the x over by the other x. To do that, I have to use inverse operations. So I'm going to subtract an x from both sides. Remember, that's the same as 1 in front of the x. So we'll put that there just so we can see that. The equals in between there. Move this over. Now that will give us 3 minus 1x, 2x equals, what is a positive 1x and a negative 1x? That should be 0x plus 4. We are going to drop the 0. And we will have 2x equals 4. Last step, we have a multiplication situation. So we're going to use inverse operations to divide by 2 to both sides. Still really far apart here. Thought I changed that, but it went back. So now 2 divided by 2 is just going to give you x equals 4 divided by 2 is 2. So if we go way back to the top, let x equal Joey's current age. X equals 2. So what is Joey's current age? Joey is 2 years old. And now we want to know what Martina's age is. Well, she is 14 years older. And if Joey is 2, she's going to be 2 plus 14, or Martina will be 16 years old. Okay? Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. I'm going to give us our homework. So our homework is going to be guided practice, page 212, the problems we have not done yet. We did some on the video. You'll have those filled in. And then I want you to do page 213, and I believe I want you to do 214 as well. Do I have page 214? I believe I do. So page 213 to 214, numbers 13 through 17, number 13 through number 17, but we've done 13. So you only have 14, 15, 16, and 17 to do. So again, if you have any questions, I'm going to stop my share here. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to get hold of me by email. You can text me. You can use Instagram. You can even call me if you would like. We could set up an appointment individually to do a Zoom meeting. Whatever works for you, I'm here to help you. So I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.